run that out route, which, I'm telling you a lot of these people do, especially on 3rd or 4th down, you're going to have that cloud flat there ready to make a play. So just like this, he'll pick that off and you're going to get yourself a pick 6. So that's something nice to be able to do. Or, if you don't want to run the man coverage there with the safety, which I would actually, suggest you do, but you could also just run a kind of a cover 6 type of thing over here. In which case, then you could take over here on the outside linebacker, and you can have an extra hook in the middle of the field. Now, what's good about calling this rather than just calling cover 6? So there's 2 really, really good reasons. First of all, cover 6 in this game, unlike last year, it actually matches on the right side. Or sorry, it doesn't match on the right side. So last year you had special on the right side. This year, if you call it, it's just spot drop. So if you want to run match, and if you want to run cover 6, you're going to have to manually do it by putting this guy in a cloud flat and putting this guy in a deep half. And then what's also nice about it is that you can actually disguise it. So if you actually call cover 6, this guy over here will actually be 5 yards off the wide receiver, and then this guy over here will be his regular 8 or 9 yards, and that's really, really easy to see. So if I'm making it myself here,
get me out this game, man. What a waste.
I can actually disguise that, so I can bait them into throwing that out route, and then my cloud flag can come down and make a play on that. So that's really, really nice. The one downside of calling cover 6 in general, whether you make it yourself or whether you call it, is that this year, unfortunately, they took away, and let me just find the play here. Yeah, they took away the ability for that deep half to match on post routes. Okay, so just to make sure I have some time on the pass here, if I have something like this where I'm, matching all these guys on the right side and then I have a post over the top, he's going to get completely free. So it takes a little bit of time, and the pass rush likely can get through. But see, in this case, the post is completely wide open. Last year, that deep half would have actually matched him. So that's kind of unfortunate. So that's why I would recommend, if you do this, that you actually man up this guy. So if he does run a post, which you actually don't see too often, the post from this solo side guy here, you'll be much, much more sound. Okay? There is a caveat here, though, is that if you put this outside guy on hook, like say if you're usering him and you have something like this, the halfback is going to get free on the wheel route because that cloud won't match him. The man coverage will go across the field, and then you're in a hook curl over here, trying to rob something over there. So unless you want to watch out for that wheel yourself and take him, I would probably just leave that quarter flat over there. So it seems kind of unnecessary to have 2 flat routes over there, but if you are coming up against somebody that likes to put their running back out on routes, you're going to be much, much more sound this way. So if I have a little bit of time in the pocket, you'll see in this case he'll actually match the wheel. I mean, in this case he actually got burnt because he is a linebacker, but if you have a safety there, you'll be much, much better. So those are the ways I want to take away that solo side guy, because I don't want to think about that side. As a user defender over here, I want to be, taking away the running back and this wide receiver away from the game. I don't want to think about them. I want to go over here, narrow my focus on just these 3 wide receivers, and try to, squeeze the options just into a much tighter window. So if I can take that out route away, that's going to be really, really nice. Now, other issues that you have before even focusing on the right side of the field is that you'll have underneath routes from the solo side wide receiver over here. So if I'm the 3 receiver hook and I'm, say, traveling with this crosshair or something like that, which I probably don't even need to do, but say if I am, and that flat on the strong side has to vacate because he has to carry the seam up the field, this drag route is going to get really, really open here. See, he has 10 yards of separation at least, and then from there he can run upfield for a few more yards. So this kind of goes back to the idea of running press man coverage. So press man coverage will do much better job on carrying that drag all the way across the field. See here in this case, again, you don't have to worry about that guy because you're going to have a defender in a much better position to do that for you. And kind of going back to this kind of thing where we're trapping the cornerback on the cloud and then we're replacing him with the weak side safety over there, this will also do a better job. So if I go over here, doesn't do as good of a job. So in this case, he kind of cut outside and then kind of came back and he was able to beat him, but it's better than the original. So yeah, that's essentially what I want to say there, is that if you want to take away that isolated wide receiver, you can just press man on him. If he's really, really good, you might want to consider doing some things like this, a little bit safer, or I show you the cover 6 approach as well. You just want to mix up some things over there. I would suggest, getting somebody that can really match up with the running back. I've never really had issues with the wheel route too much, even with just straight up linebackers there. But if for whatever reason you have somebody that's wheeling you like crazy, you might want to consider putting a safety here at linebacker. Or, if you have a Shazier or something like that, you don't really have to worry about it. But that's just something to keep in mind. So then other things you can do with this guy. So if you're not too worried about the solo side wide receiver there, and if you want to say put this guy in man coverage, you could even leave him backed off. If your opponent isn't running out routes there, you can just leave him backed off. Or if you want to press him to remove the possibility of drag routes, you can do that. And then you're kind of free over here. This guy's still free to do a lot of interesting things. One thing we can do is put him on a hook curl. And by the way, this is kind of important. If you're running this at a big nickel over G, I would suggest using the substitution package slot cornerback, because that allows you to get different hot routes, defensive hot routes on your 3 safeties here. This guy, and this guy. Actually, this guy is now going to be a cornerback, and then you'll only have 2 safeties on the field. But it allows you to do things like put this guy in a hook curl, which will just give you a little bit more options in the middle of the field. Because what I do find is that this year, the coverage, actually Palms has always been a very sound coverage. There hasn't really been any big coverage breakdowns. In this year, there's really only one that I can think of, and it's not in this formation. And then they play much better on the post routes. Okay, so last year, you could run a post route from really any one of these guys, and likely, it'll burn the guy and get you a free score. But in this case, they play that much tighter because man coverage in general is much tighter. So as long as you have some, decently fast cornerbacks, you don't really have to worry about those post routes. One thing I will say about running stock cover 4 Palms is that this guy can get pretty busy. So if there are some post routes, he does actually do a good job sometimes at, picking up and running double, just playing double coverage on some of those posts. So that is something I will say. But a lot of the times it's not even necessary, and you need a little bit more help in the middle of the field. And that's where he can help out. Again, so you can put him on a hook here, and so he can come down a little bit more aggressively. Say if the number 1 over there is running a slant, well, if he's in press coverage, you don't really have to worry about him. But just another defender over there that, say if number 3 goes in on a slant, you can say the hook curl is going to take him, and then you can kind of be a little bit more focused on number 1 and number 2 over there. So you do have that option of doing that. But you do have some other pressing issues with Palms. Okay, and I probably should have touched on this earlier, because this is really one of the biggest issues with this. And I think a lot of people do know is that, and I don't know why it hasn't been fixed yet, it's really disappointing. This nickel corner here, unless he's much faster than the number 2 wide receiver, he's gonna get burnt on just simple streak routes down the field. So in this case here, he's kind of slow to transition, and then he's pretty much always gonna get burnt right here. So you do have an issue there. And whether I put this guy, whether I press him, whether I back him off like way over here, he's still going to have issues. Again, if he's really fast, it'll be okay. But even if they have the same speed, he's going to get burnt. Now you can play like this, and I've played many games like this, not having to worry about it, because still the majority of players have no idea that's even a thing. But maybe if it's late in the game and if you don't want to give up anything, you're especially going to need to kind of consider it. So there's a few things you can do. One thing is that, again, this weak side safety is kind of your Swiss Army knife player. You can do so many different things. So if he's free, you can man him up on anyone. You can man him up on this guy. You can man him up on the running back. You can man him up on the number 3. You can man him up on the wide receiver way over here. And you can also man him up over here. So that what's nice about that is that if they do run this, you'll have somebody there to better defend that. So you'll kind of have a bracket coverage there. But also, if you want to put him in man coverage, back on this guy. And like I was saying before, if this guy runs underneath, nobody's going to match him. So in this case, you don't have to worry about him because this safety will be over here to defend him. Okay, so you do have that kind of nice thing as well. Now, it can be kind of silly, like if this guy's running an out or a corner route or something like that, you'll have that safety, coming all the way across the field, never going to be able to make a play, and he's kind of taken out of the play in a sense. But it's just another option that has its perks. So in this case, deep and inside. If number 2 runs outside, you don't really have anything benefit you there. But again, it's just another option, and I think this coverage is so nice because you do have so many options to work with. Other things you can do is that you can put this guy in a deep third. So I mentioned that earlier. If I press coverage this guy and I want a little bit more help to the left, this third can help out over there, assuming he's not too far to the right. And he can help over there to the right on that slot wide receiver, assuming we manually move him in a little bit. So if we kick him over to the strong side a little bit and put him in a deep third, you'll see that he'll be able to make a play over here and deter them from running that. So that's also an option. I would say this is probably something that you should run maybe towards the end of the game if you're trying to preserve a lead, just because it's going to be a lot kind of more sound, because you'll have options to help out to the left on the vertical and to the right on the vertical. And then if you do have any post routes that for whatever reason beat some of your other players, this deep third usually will help out there. The more aggressive case, say if it's a close game or if you're behind, you'll likely want to do something like this. Or if you're playing somebody that has no clue about that, you don't necessarily even have to worry about that. The other option is that you can convert this guy to man coverage over here. So if you convert him to man coverage, he's going to transition much better. So in this case, right here, and the wide receiver is actually faster than him, so he was actually able to beat him anyway. So in that case, the wide receiver is much faster than him. I think the ratings work out like that. So he was able to beat him anyway. But if you have a decent matchup there, he'll be able to carry him down the field and cover him pretty well. The only thing is that if you are doing that, I would suggest you also put this safety in man coverage on the number 3. Because if number 2 goes vertical and number 3 goes out, nobody will be there to cover him. Okay, so you do want him there, and you don't necessarily want to go cover that by yourself as a user. The other thing is that if he does wheel up, that's even more important for there to be somebody covering him. Okay, so if you do go this route of putting him in man coverage, again, remember this guy over here is in man coverage. He's here, he's here. So you're kind of playing, in a sense, close to a cover 1 at this point, but at least it's disguised, right? So it looks like you're running your cover 4 palms, but it's an easy way to transition to kind of a pure man defense if you need that point. Okay, a few other cool things that you can do. So there are ways that you can blitz out of this, and I showed this last year, but if you didn't see that video and if you're curious, there are ways that you can blitz out of it. You can blitz all your linebackers, and you can even, press coverage a bunch to get at least one of those guys to come up on the line. You can reset that, re-blitz all your linebackers again, so you can get your defensive backs in maybe a bit of a better position. And then how that works is that, again, these guys over here are in man coverage anyway. you're
Good game.
hoping the running back, if he doesn't block